Hello everyone. First of all, let me start by saying Merry Christmas if you celebrate. And if you don't, just enjoy the holidays. Maybe you're getting some time off work. Give you some time to read. Whatever the occasion, I hope you have a good one. I have one more video after this one before the end of the year. And then we'll be in 2024. But today I've got three amazing indie horror books. These three I read, and they're all vastly different, so there's something in here for every type of horror fan, and they're all fantastic. I think you're going to love them, and I hope you decide to pick them up. And as a reminder, I have horror books for sale, and if you want to read any of the books you see on your screen, there is a link in the description, and also I'll leave that link in the pinned comment as well. And don't forget to pick up your Read More Horror t-shirt. There are many colors and sizes available for you to show your love of horror fiction. All right, let's get started. So the first book I want to talk about today is called Our Black Hearts Beat as One by Brian Asman. He is the author of the wildly popular haunted house book called Man, Fuck This House. I did a review of that one earlier on my channel. And when I saw this one, I saw the author's name, and I was like, yep, I'm definitely in. I didn't know anything about it before jumping in, but I'm really glad I did. If you're expecting something like Man, Fuck This House, it's different, but it's different in a good way. This is basically about a guy. He's the lead singer of a up-and-coming, kind of popular heavy metal band. And everything seems to be going his way until his girlfriend breaks up with him. And then he starts coming apart. We've all experienced bad breakups. So this is a theme that everybody is intimately familiar with. But when his girlfriend breaks up with him, he will do anything to get her back. He feels his life is now worth nothing despite his success. And the fact that he's the lead singer of a rock and roll band, man, he can go out and get any chick he wants, but he only wants this one woman. And she has broken his heart. So he decides to delve into the occult underworld of the city because he's willing to try anything to repair his broken heart. And what he's going to find is not only the supernatural, terrifying things that are going to happen to him, but he's also going to be in real danger from physical threats, because when you're dealing with this kind of thing that's hidden beneath the veneer of normalcy in society, you're going to find people there that are less than law-abiding, let's put it that way. And his life is going to be in danger not only from these supernatural forces, but also from real living people. But the great thing about this book is that it is kind of cosmic horror, it's supernatural horror, but it's really about this guy and his heartbreaking, and it's a very touching, warm love story is what it is, wrapped in this supernatural cloth, you know. And it really took me by surprise. One of those where when I finished it, I was like, this is just a fantastic love story, but it's also filled with all these terrifying things. Like I said, we've all felt heartbreak and heartache after a relationship ends, you know. And so these themes are all familiar to us, and we'll be right there with our protagonist and just agreeing with him. Yeah, definitely going to the scary dark tunnel at night. If that's what it's going to take to mend your broken heart, bud, you go ahead and do that. And we'll experience all that terror and all that dread and all that heartbreak right along with him. And it's just a fantastic book that really shows Brian Asman's range from going from something like Man, Fuck This House to this one here. It's just great. I absolutely loved it. And of course, I highly recommend it. And there is a link below where you can pick up your copy through Amazon. And next we have Prisoner of Despair by Chad Miller. This was my year to find out something about myself. I really started to dig historical horror fiction this year. Before, that wasn't really my thing, but what I discovered is that when people write historical fiction well and actually give you the proper setting for that time period, the proper language and how people act and react, when it's done that well, it immerses you in that world. It immerses you in that time before any technology, and it's just a very effective way to tell a horror story. And, and this one does that perfectly by with how the narrative plays out, and you find yourself in that world, in that time period with these characters. It was pitched to me as excuse me, as Sherlock Holmes meets Edgar Allan Poe, and that is perfect. That's the best way to describe it. But I would also add some X-File type stuff in there, because we're dealing with two main characters who will go out and investigate creepy, supernatural, impossible things. And one of them is a pure skeptic, and the other one is more scientific minded. He is not really out trying to prove anything, and he'll admit that most of the things they encounter are probably bogus, probably made up, just hoaxes, and things like that. But he has more of an open mind. He's willing to accept the possibility that there are things beyond our comprehension. But despite their differences, they are best friends. They have each other's backs. Each of them has something going on in their lives, that really dark secrets that they know about each other, but nobody else outside of themselves know. And one day, one of their colleagues goes missing, a doctor who went to see an old friend, because this old friend was suffering from something very strange, some medical condition that nobody else could figure out. And this doctor friend of theirs shows up in this town and goes missing. Nobody knows what happened to them. So they decide to go and investigate. And what happens next is the terrifying part of this book, because we don't really know what's going on. There's a socialite's daughter who has transformed from a very beautiful, desirable young woman into a hideous creature. Her flesh clings to her skeleton. She's lost so much weight she looks skeletal. Patches of her hair are missing, exposing her scalp. Her face is all twisted and contorted, and she acts violently and viciously toward anybody that approaches her. And so what's going on? Is this demon possession? Is this some medical condition? And that's the thing about this story. This is where we're going to go. And I like the style of this book, the way it's written, because it's all written in journal entries, letters, forms, police blotters and things like that. So we are going to hear from all of the main characters separately. So we as a reader will know things that the other characters involved in the story do not. So that gives you kind of it builds more tension, is what I'm trying to say, because we know people are going to put themselves in certain situations that they shouldn't, because they have no idea what they're about to get into. And we're going to hear from all the main players in this, especially our two main protagonists, as they try to figure out what happened to their friend. And trust me, it might not be demon possession, and it might not be a medical condition, but what is actually happening when you find out is truly more terrifying. You almost wish it was one of those other two options once you realize what's really going on. This is a really great horror mystery type book set back in the 1800s, and it's one you definitely want to read. And like I said, that historical setting really sets it off, and I truly enjoyed it. And of course, I highly recommend it to you, and there's a link down below where you can purchase your copy, again, through Amazon. And finally, we have Ophelia in the Underworld and Other Melancholy Tales. And this one is an anthology. It kind of came out of nowhere. I remember the author saying, "Hey, do you want to read and review my book?" And I said, "Yeah," and I was just blown away. This is an excellent anthology. And we start out with even some familiar tropes, and I really like that. In the first couple stories, I mean, the very first story is shorter, but it's about zombies, but it's not the way you think. It's not anything you think you'd read in a zombie story, let me put it that way. He has a very unique spin on that. And then the next one is a Bigfoot story, or maybe a werewolf story, and actually it's kind of a werewolf / Bigfoot type creature story, so he delves into creature features, and that one's excellent. And there are just all different kinds of stories in this anthology, and they're all really well written, really great characters involved in these stories. and they take you to places you might not want to go, you know, and you're sitting there with dread in your heart, but it's very effective. And the last story, the title story, Ophelia in the Underworld, is just fantastic. It's probably the longest story in here. It's at the end of the book. But that is about a woman who loses her fiance. He dies and he gets murdered in the streets in an alley. And she has a chance to actually go to Hades and go to hell and try to get Lucifer to release his soul back into his body. And all she has with her is a violin as a weapon. And nobody can guarantee her safety or what's going to happen when she gets there. But it's a very moving, very beautiful, very almost fantasy-like world, because of this hell she inhabits isn't like anything you would think, the typical depictions of hell. And we have to see if she's going to be able to coerce, you know, Lucifer to release her fiance's soul so that they can live a happy life together. It's just great. All the stories in here are fantastic. I absolutely love this anthology. And again, there is a link below where you can pick up your copy through Amazon, and I highly recommend it. And as always, I want to say thank you for taking some of your time and spending it here with me. And until we meet again, keep reading spooky, my friends.